My future son-in-law kept staring at my hands, not my face, not making eye contact like a normal person, my hands. "Those are interesting rings, Richard," Marcus said for the third time in his many visits. "Family heirlooms?" I glanced down at the two gold bands on my right hand. One had been my father's, the other my grandfather's. Both simple, worn smooth by decades of wear. "Just old jewelry," I said. "They look valuable. You ever had them appraised?" My daughter Jessica laughed from the kitchen doorway. "Marcus, Dad doesn't care about stuff like that. He still drives a car from 2006. But Marcus wasn't laughing. He was studying my hands like a jeweler examining merchandise, like he was calculating something. That was the moment I knew something was wrong. I'm Richard Torres, 61 years old, retired mathematics professor from Stanford. I spent 35 years teaching, publishing, living quietly in my modest three-bedroom house in Palo Alto. My wife Elena died 4 years ago. Aneurysm, sudden, devastating. Jessica was our only child, now 29, working as a graphic designer in San Francisco. After Elena died, I threw myself into my one hobby, chess. I'd always played casually, but grief turned it into an obsession. I joined clubs, played in tournaments, spent hours studying grandmaster games. It kept my mind occupied, kept the loneliness at bay. That's actually how Jessica met Marcus, at a charity chess tournament 6 months ago. He'd approached her during intermission, charming, attentive, said he was fascinated by chess strategy. They exchanged numbers. 3 weeks later, they were dating. 2 months after that, he proposed. Marcus Greenfield, 34 years old, claimed to work in tech consulting, always vague about the details, drove a leased BMW, wore expensive watches, talked about investments and opportunities. Jessica was head over heels. I wanted to be happy for her. I really did. After her mother died, Jessica had been so worried about me, checking in constantly, putting her own life on hold. When she met Marcus, she seemed lighter, happier. I told myself that was enough. But then he started asking questions. Not normal getting-to-know-you questions, specific questions, calculated questions. "So, Richard, you've been in this house how long? Did you and Elena buy it together? Property values in Palo Alto must be insane now. What's this place worth, you think? You retired at 58. That's young. You must have had a good pension. Those paintings in your study, are those originals?" Every visit, more questions. Jessica didn't notice. She was too busy planning the wedding, too caught up in being in love. But I noticed. I'm a mathematician. I see patterns, and Marcus's pattern was becoming very, very clear. The engagement party was at a restaurant in Palo Alto. 50 people, mostly Jessica's friends and some distant relatives. Marcus's side was smaller. His parents were dead, he said, and he wasn't close with his extended family. A few friends from work showed up, but they seemed oddly impersonal, like hired actors playing a role. During dinner, Marcus pulled me aside. "Richard, I wanted to talk to you about something, man to man." "Sure." "Jessica and I have been discussing our future, where we'll live, financial planning, all that adult stuff." He smiled. "I know this might be a sensitive topic, but have you thought about updating your will? Making sure Jessica's taken care of?" My blood went cold, but I kept my face neutral. "I have a will." "That's great, but with Jessica getting married, you might want to review it. Maybe set up a trust. I'm actually pretty knowledgeable about estate planning. I could help. No charge, of course. I mean, I'm going to be family." "I'll think about it." "And Richard," he lowered his voice, leaning closer, "I don't mean to be morbid, but at your age, living alone in that big house, have you considered what would happen if something happened to you? Who would handle your affairs?" "Something like what?" "I don't know, a fall, a medical emergency. You're alone there. It worries Jessica. It worries me." His hand was on my shoulder, his smile sympathetic. "Maybe you should consider giving someone power of attorney, just in case. I'd be happy to help manage things if you ever needed it." I looked at his hand on my shoulder, looked at his perfectly practiced expression of concern. "I appreciate the thought," I said carefully, "but I'm managing fine." His smile tightened just slightly. "Of course, just something to think about." That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the conversation, the questions, the way he'd looked at my rings, my house, calculating. The next morning I called my attorney. "David, I need you to look into someone for me." David Chen had been my lawyer for 20 years. We'd played chess together weekly before Elena died. He knew me well enough to hear the worry in my voice. "Who?" "Marcus Greenfield. Says he's a tech consultant. He's engaged to Jessica." David was quiet for a moment. "Richard, are you sure you want to do this? If Jessica finds out..." "I need to know who my daughter is marrying. Give me a week." It took 5 days. David called me on a Thursday afternoon. "Richard, we need to meet, not on the phone." I drove to his office in Menlo Park. He closed the door and handed me a folder. "Marcus Greenfield exists. He has a business license, a LinkedIn profile, tax returns. Everything checks out on the surface." But I had an investigator dig deeper. Marcus has been engaged 4 times in the last 8 years. 4 times, Richard. All to women from wealthy families. My hands tightened on the folder. 3 of those engagements ended abruptly after Marcus gained access to family financial information. No lawsuits, no police reports, but the pattern is clear. The 4th engagement, to a woman named Claire Hartley, ended when her father died suddenly. Marcus inherited nothing because Claire's father had a trust, but he tried to contest it, lost in court. David pulled out another document. Here's the interesting part. Marcus isn't his real name. He was born Derek Mallory, changed his name legally 7 years ago after a fraud investigation in Nevada. No charges filed, but the company he worked for went bankrupt and several elderly clients lost their life savings. I felt sick. Does Jessica know any of this? I doubt it. He's very good at covering his tracks. But Richard... David leaned forward. I made some calls, talked to one of his ex-fiancé's fathers. Off the record, he told me Marcus's pattern is always the same. Charm the daughter, get close to the family, ask questions about assets, then position himself to inherit or control money after a convenient accident. Accident? The father I spoke with? His daughter's engagement to Marcus ended right after someone tried to break into his house while he was home. The intruder ran when the alarm went off. Police never caught anyone. But 2 weeks later, Marcus suddenly broke up with the daughter, claiming they weren't compatible. I stared at the folder, at the evidence, at the pattern. What do I do? If I tell Jessica, she won't believe me. She'll think I'm trying to control her life. You need proof she can't deny, something that shows her who he really is. How? David thought for a moment. Let me make some calls. I know someone who might be able to help. 2 days later, I met Patricia Reeves in a coffee shop in Mountain View. She was in her mid-40s, sharp-eyed, former FBI white-collar crime investigator turned private consultant. David filled me in, she said, sliding into the booth across from me. Your daughter's fiancé is a professional. I've seen his type before. They're patient, methodical, and very good at reading people. Can you help? I can get you evidence, but Mr. Torres, you need to understand something. Men like Marcus don't just walk away when exposed. They escalate. If we're going to do this, we need to be smart and we need to move fast. When's the wedding? 3 weeks, September 15th. Patricia pulled out a tablet. That's tight, but doable. Here's what I need. Access to your house to install surveillance equipment, permission to track Marcus's movements, and your complete cooperation in setting a trap. What kind of trap? We need him to incriminate himself on camera. The best way to do that is to give him what he thinks he wants. Access to your financial information, trust, vulnerability. Then we record him revealing his true intentions. My stomach churned. You want me to pretend I trust him? I want you to be the perfect target. Play the lonely widower who's grateful for his daughter's happiness. Make him think you're easy prey. Meanwhile, I'll be documenting everything." I thought about Jessica, about her excitement over wedding plans, her happiness, how devastated she'd be when the truth came out. "Do it," I said. Over the next 2 weeks, I became an actor in my own life. I invited Marcus over for dinner, just the two of us. "Man to man," I said, echoing his own words. We sat in my study, whiskey glasses between us, and I played my role perfectly. "You were right about the estate planning. I've been putting it off since Elena died, but I should get my affairs in order. Would you really be willing to help?" Marcus's eyes lit up. "Of course, Richard. That's what family does." "I don't have much," I lied. "The house, my pension, some savings, but I want to make sure Jessica's taken care of. Let me put together some documents for you to review. Nothing binding, just options. And Richard," he leaned forward, his expression sincere, "have you thought more about the power of attorney? Not to be morbid, but you're alone here. If something happened, who would make medical decisions, financial decisions? Jessica's too emotional for that kind of thing. She'd be a mess, but I could handle it, take that burden off her." I nodded slowly. "That makes sense." "Great, I'll draw up some paperwork." What Marcus didn't know was that Patricia had installed cameras in my study, my living room, even in the hidden safe behind the painting where I kept Elena's jewelry. Every conversation was being recorded, every gesture, every micro-expression captured. 3 days later, Marcus returned with a folder full of documents. "Okay, Richard, I've prepared everything. This is the power of attorney form. It's comprehensive, gives me authority to handle financial and medical decisions if you're incapacitated. And this is a new will that names Jessica as primary beneficiary with me as executor and trustee. Much cleaner than whatever outdated document you have now." I pretended to study the papers. Patricia had already reviewed them. They were exactly what she'd predicted. Documents that would give Marcus complete control over my assets the moment I was unable to resist. "This seems complicated." "It's standard stuff. Trust me, I've set these up for dozens of clients. You sign here, here, and everything's protected." "Let me think about it for a few days." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Richard, the wedding's in a week. We should get this settled." "I know, it's a big decision." "Of course." His smile returned, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Take your time, but not too much time, right? At our age, we never know what might happen." At our age? I was 61. He was 34. After he left, I watched the surveillance footage with Patricia. "Look at this," she said, freezing the frame. "Right here when you hesitated about signing. See his expression? That's frustration. He's on a timeline." "What kind of timeline?" "My guess? He's in debt, probably gambled on this score, told someone he'd have money soon. The wedding was supposed to be his deadline. Now he's getting desperate." "Desperate people are dangerous." "Exactly, which is why we're going to end this at the wedding. Public, witnesses, no chance for him to spin the narrative." The wedding was at a vineyard in Sonoma, overlooking rolling hills of grapevines. Jessica had dreamed of this since she was a little girl. Elena and I used to joke about it, about walking our daughter down the aisle someday. Now, Elena was gone, and I was about to destroy Jessica's dream to save her life. The night before the ceremony, I barely slept. I kept thinking about all the ways this could go wrong. What if Jessica hated me? What if she chose Marcus anyway? What if I was wrong about everything? But I wasn't wrong. I was a mathematician. I knew patterns, and Marcus's pattern was crystal clear. The wedding day dawned bright and clear. Guests arrived, filling the white chairs arranged in neat rows. Jessica looked beautiful in Elena's wedding dress, altered to fit her. She'd wanted to honor her mother that way. I walked her down the aisle, her arm looped through mine. "I'm so happy, Dad," she whispered. "I wish Mom could see this." My throat tightened. "She would be so proud of you." We reached the altar. Marcus stood there in his expensive tuxedo, smiling. I placed Jessica's hand in his and stepped back to my seat in the front row. The officiant began. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today." I glanced at Patricia, sitting 3 rows back, disguised as one of Jessica's co-workers. She gave me a tiny nod. The ceremony progressed. Vows were exchanged. Jessica's voice trembled with emotion. Marcus's voice was smooth, practiced, perfect. Then came the ring exchange. Do you, Marcus, take Jessica to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do. And do you, Jessica, take Marcus to be your lawfully wedded husband? Jessica opened her mouth to answer. Stop. Everyone turned. I was standing. Jessica's face went pale. Dad? I'm sorry, sweetheart. I'm so sorry, but you can't marry this man. The crowd erupted in shocked murmurs. Marcus's face turned red. Richard, what the hell are you doing? I pulled out my phone, connected it to the venue's AV system that Patricia had arranged earlier. The large screens mounted for photo displays flickered to life. Everyone needs to see this. The first video played. Marcus in my study. At our age, we never know what might happen. The second video, Marcus on the phone, captured by Patricia's surveillance. Yeah, the old man's almost ready. Another week and I'll have power of attorney. Then it's just a matter of waiting for an opportunity. Old guy lives alone. Anything could happen. Fall down the stairs, carbon monoxide leak, who knows? After that, the daughter inherits, and I control everything through the marriage. Jessica's hand flew to her mouth. The third video, Marcus meeting with a man Patricia identified as his bookie. I'm good for it. 2 weeks, I'll have access to millions. The old professor's loaded, he just doesn't show it. The final video, Marcus with one of his friends at a bar. This is the 4th time I've tried this. Finally found the perfect setup. Lonely widower, dumb daughter who thinks I'm Prince Charming, and a fat inheritance just waiting to be claimed. By the time the videos finished, Jessica was crying. Not sad tears, angry tears. She turned to Marcus, her face twisted with rage and betrayal. You called me dumb? Marcus tried to grab her hand. Baby, this is all out of context. Your father manipulated. Don't touch me. She shoved him back. You were going to kill my father? I never said that. That video was edited. I heard you. Her voice echoed across the vineyard. You said anything could happen. You were planning to murder him. 2 men in suits stepped forward from the crowd. FBI agents Patricia had arranged to be present. Marcus Greenfield, also known as Derek Mallory, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, attempted financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult, and making terroristic threats. Marcus tried to run. He made it 3 steps before the agents had him face down in the grass, hands cuffed behind his back. The guests sat frozen, stunned. The officiant looked like he might faint. Jessica turned to me, mascara streaming down her face. You knew? For 3 weeks, I hired investigators. I wanted to tell you, but you wouldn't have believed me. She laughed bitterly. I would have thought you were trying to control my life. God, Dad, you must think I'm such an idiot. No, I pulled her into a hug. You're someone who believes in love, who trusts people. Those are good qualities. He's a professional predator. You're not the first person he's fooled. She sobbed into my shoulder while the FBI led Marcus away. He was screaming about false accusations, demanding lawyers, threatening lawsuits. The crowd slowly dispersed, some guests supportive, others just eager to gossip. The wedding that never was would be talked about for years. 6 months later, Marcus, Derek Mallory, pled guilty to multiple counts of fraud, attempted financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult, and making terroristic threats. The DA found evidence connecting him to 2 other suspicious deaths, though they couldn't prove murder. He got 15 years. Jessica moved back home for a while. She needed time to heal, to rebuild her ability to trust. Therapy helped. So did long talks with me, processing what had happened, understanding how she'd been manipulated. One evening, we sat in the study where I recorded those videos. Dad, how much are you actually worth? I smiled. Why do you want to know? Because Marcus kept saying you were loaded. I always thought we were just comfortable. The house is paid off, worth about $3 million in this market. I have my pension, some investments, royalties from textbooks I wrote. Total assets around $6 million. Her eyes widened. $6 million? And you drive that ancient Corolla? Money doesn't buy happiness, Jess. My mother and I learned that watching wealthy colleagues make themselves miserable. We decided to live comfortably but modestly. Focus on experiences, not things. And my inheritance? Already in a trust that activates when I die, structured so no spouse can access it without your explicit written consent. I set it up years ago after watching families destroy each other over money. She was quiet for a long moment. You protected me, even from myself. That's what parents do. I'm sorry I didn't see what Marcus was. I'm sorry you had to ruin my wedding to save my life. Jess, look at me. I took her hands. You have nothing to apologize for. You wanted to love someone. You wanted to build a life. Those are beautiful impulses. What happened isn't your fault. When will I be able to trust again? When you're ready, and when you meet someone worth trusting, I'll be here, doing background checks. Just kidding, mostly. A year after the wedding that never was, Jessica started dating someone new. Michael, a high school English teacher she met at a book club. He drove a beat-up Honda, lived in a modest apartment, and genuinely didn't care that I was a retired Stanford professor. At their first dinner at my house, he complimented Elena's paintings, asked thoughtful questions about chess, and never once inquired about property values or estate planning. I like him, I told Jessica later. Me too, but I'm taking it slow. Very, very slow. Smart. 2 years after that, Michael proposed. Small ceremony, just close friends and family, at a garden in Palo Alto. No vineyard, no massive production. As I walked Jessica down the aisle, this time for real, she whispered, "You ran a background check, didn't you?" 3 of them. And? He's exactly who he seems to be, a good man who loves my daughter. Thank you, Dad. I gave her hand to Michael, stepped back, and watched them exchange vows. Real vows, based on real love, not manipulation or greed. After the ceremony, Michael pulled me aside. "Mr. Torres, I wanted to tell you something. Jessica told me what happened with Marcus, about how you saved her. I did what any father would do." "No," Michael shook his head. "Most fathers would have either ignored the warning signs or confronted it badly and pushed their daughter away. You found the evidence, built an airtight case, and exposed him in a way she couldn't deny. That took incredible restraint and intelligence. I'm a mathematician. I see patterns. You're more than that. You're the kind of father I hope to be someday." He paused. "When Jessica and I have kids, I mean, if that's okay to mention." I smiled. "That's more than okay." I'm 64 now. Jessica and Michael have a daughter, Alina, named after her grandmother. I teach her chess, read her books, and spoil her the way grandfathers are supposed to. Jessica runs a successful design firm. Michael still teaches, coaches the debate team, loves his work. They live in a modest house in San Jose, drive reasonable cars, focus on experiences over possessions. Sometimes Jessica and I talk about that day at the vineyard, about Marcus, about the pattern I saw, about the videos that stopped a wedding and saved a life. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't noticed?" she asks. Every day. But I did notice. That's what matters. "The rings," she says, "that's what started it, wasn't it? Him staring at Grandpa's rings. That was the first red flag. The questions about my house, my will, my age, those confirmed it." She looks down at her own hands. Michael gave her a simple gold band, no diamonds, no flash, just a symbol of commitment. "I'm glad you see patterns, Dad." "Me too, sweetheart. Me too." The truth is, I still see them. I notice when people ask too many questions, when they calculate instead of connect, when they see dollar signs instead of human beings. But I also see different patterns now. The way Michael always makes sure Jessica's coffee is perfect. The way little Elena reaches for her mother when she's scared. The way love can be quiet and real instead of loud and false. Those are the patterns worth finding. And if I ever see the dangerous patterns again, the ones that threaten my family, I'll do exactly what I did before. Document everything, build an airtight case, and protect the people I love. Because that's what fathers do. That's what mathematicians do. We see the pattern before anyone else does, and we solve the problem before it destroys everything. Marcus is in prison, Jessica is safe, and my granddaughter will grow up never knowing how close she came to not existing because a predator tried to kill her grandfather for money. That's a pattern I'll never let repeat. Not while I'm alive to see it coming.